My name is Sarah Rae. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to talk about dealing with grief when it comes to having chronic illness. I hope you guys are ready. Let's jump straight into it. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications of when I upload, and let's start the discussion. Let's start right off the bat. What is grief? I found you two of the best definitions I could find of what grief is. Now, first one is from the Mayo Clinic, and they say grief is a strong emotion people get from loss of loved ones or from getting terminal diagnosis that they or a loved one has received. The other definition I got is from Grief Recovery Method, and they state that grief is a conflicting feeling caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. This could be a loss of a loved one or a pet, getting a life-changing diagnosis such as terminal or chronic illness, which is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Chronic illness. And the best way I can explain and give examples about how grief can play a role in chronic illness is by using myself as an example in my story. So we're going to start with what is chronic illness. What is the term chronic? That is when you deal with something that is longer than 3 months to lifelong. The opposite of chronic is acute disease, and that happens quickly and lasts only for a short period of time. I'll make a video in the near future talking about chronic illness and acute disease and the difference between the two and really go more in depth on these two illnesses. But when you think of acute illness, I want you guys to think of the common cold, broken bones, strep throat, things along those lines. When you think of chronic illness, think of cancer, diabetes, arthritis, autoimmune diseases, things of that nature. My chronic illness is Crohn's disease. I will put a link in the description box down below about videos I've made talking about Crohn's disease, what it is, and all that jazz. But for right now, for the sake of the video, I'll give you a quick definition. It is an autoimmune disease, which means my body is attacking itself. In specific, it is attacking the GI tract, causing things like ulcerations, bleeding, and pain. It is also a very rough disease. I mean, it can be accompanied by surgeries and joint pain, nausea, and weight loss, even weight gain from medications we take to help maintain this disease and flare-ups that can happen at any time. So having chronic illness can very much invoke emotional responses in the form of grief, and it is something I feel never really goes away. Before we continue, we have to talk about the 5 stages of grief. I think that is very important. When I was in high school, my junior and senior year, I had the opportunity to spend half my day in high school and the other half of my day in a technical school where I was able to pick from multiple different type of classes that I could use for my future. Like they had cosmetology and shop, cooking, and CNA class, which CNA stands for Certified Nursing Assistant, and that's what I took. I took CNA class because I wanted to be a nurse and I wanted to climb the ladder. Start off as a CNA, go to LPN school, and then become an RN, registered nurse, and work in the hospital. So, became a CNA. Also wanted to make sure that that is exactly what I wanted to do, and when I became a CNA, I fell in love. During that, we talked about grief, and there was a simple way my teacher gave us to remember what the 5 stages were. DABDA. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. DABDA. So simple, easy way to remember. When it comes to emotions, everyone handles situations very differently, which also includes grief. Some may go in the order of the 5 stages I just named. Some may go out of order, and some may not experience some of those stages at all. Some may experience bargaining and not depression. It just all depends on how they deal with whatever situation they're being put in. And that honestly is the beauty of our mind and how they work. It's so complex. Also, there is a few symptoms that follow along with grief. Things like shock, disbelief, numbness and guilt, fear, nausea, regret and shame, anxiety, and so much more. Grief takes such a toll on your body. It really affects you. It's such a heavy thing that happens. And majority of the people in the world will go through grief at some point in their life, maybe even multiple times. So how does grief affect chronic illness? I'll tell you. When it comes to chronic illness, symptoms slowly creep on you, and you push them away until you have no choice but to face them, to face the pain, to face all that you were pushing away. Yes, you get a diagnosis, you get answers and medications to help the symptoms, but when it comes to chronic illness, there's no cure. Crohn's disease, there's no cure. This is forever. I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. Now, conditions in your life change it. The abilities that your ability in life that you, now conditions in your life changes. Your abilities that you walk through in life, and a lot of time your dreams, they all change. You have to take a whole new path than what you originally wanted for yourself. I know for me, my path changed so many times, and each time it hurt. You end up grieving your old self and your old life. Let me explain deeper. My whole life, I wanted to be so many things, but one of them stayed consistent, and I just told you a little while ago what that was. I wanted to be an RN. And again, I got my CNA in high school. I went to college for a while, but my health kind of really affected it. I couldn't take as many classes as I want to. I missed classes here and there. So I had to stop for a while. And then when I got a little better, I went to an LPN school. Climb that ladder, remember? I made it halfway. I was so proud of myself because LPN school, it's so hard. You are learning so much in such a little time. It is hard. So the fact that I made it to that half point mark and was going to the next half was incredible. I'm so proud of myself. And then I had to have surgery. The day I was set to go home, that day I would have been able to continue, but I wouldn't be able to miss any more days. That's just that surgery and how many days I spent in the hospital. I used up all the sick days in that year for LPN school. That day, something went wrong. I started shaking violently. I was crying. I was in so much pain. I couldn't express what was going on. My dad, he was so strong. He ran out of that room, grabbed somebody and told them to come look at my daughter. Something's wrong. I had to have an emergency surgery that night, and I got removed from the course. It hurt so bad because those are my dreams. I already made a new path. Now I have to make another, and this will constantly happen throughout my life. I wanted to be a wrestler. I had to change that because I ended up getting really lightheaded in the ring, and I ended up getting kneed in the head. I'm fine knowing that in wrestling, you get hurt. That's what will happen in wrestling. It's inevitable. At some point, you're going to get injured. But knowing that my health could get in the way and make me more injured and possibly hurt somebody else, I'm putting not only myself, but mainly somebody else in danger because I want to push away and be in denial of my illness. So I had to change that. My jobs. I was full-time at a job I really loved. I worked so hard to get to that job. So many interviews, and I got it. And then I had to go to part-time. And I mean, I'm the type of person who doesn't show that I'm in pain. I will lean over and look down and just take the pain. I miss my old life where I didn't have to do that. Part-time now. And then I had to drop down to PRN, which means I can only work as needed, which means I come in whenever I'm able. And now I'm on disability. Different paths constantly changing because of my health. You grieve because now I'm sitting here wishing that I would give anything to go back to that time where I was full-time and just gritting my teeth in pain. You know, that's bargaining. You ask, why me? You get frustrated and angry. You miss out on family outings, time with friends, work. In the hospital where time stands still. I've talked about that before. And you look outside and everybody's living their lives and you're just stuck in there. And it's a reminder that this is forever. I'm going to be like this. I'm going to forever be in pain, have nausea to the point that I can't move, in and out of doctor's offices, in and out of hospitals. This is chronic. It's never going away. And nothing you do will change the facts. You grieve what you once had. I saw a post where someone said that when you lose someone, the grieving process and the loss, it gets easier over time. But the grief you deal with when you have chronic illness, it never goes away because it comes back in waves. It comes and it goes. You'll have moments where you're in remission and you're doing great. All is well, then a flare-up happens and you feel the grief all over again. So what should we do? Be aware that you are going through grief. Or if you're about to be diagnosed or going through that process of finding out what's going on, know that there's a possibility, a big possibility, you're going to go through grief. And realize that it's okay. Once you do, the more you'll be able to understand why you're feeling this way and maybe even figure out how you will react in other stages. Knowledge is key, okay? When it comes to understanding your illness, mental health, all of it, grief, knowledge is important. Understanding everything. I can't express that enough. Also know you have to go through all of these different emotions and allow yourself to go through these so you can get to acceptance. Now, some of you may have heard me say this before if you've seen any of my other videos, but when it comes to acceptance, it doesn't mean you have to be okay with what's going on or that you have to like it. Acceptance is understanding the situation and realizing it is what it is. Just be patient with yourself. When it was realized that grief is felt with chronic illness, 2 more stages was added to the list of what is felt during grief. Now there are 2 different setup stages for grief. One is for loss and the other is for chronic illness. So DABDA, the one I told you about earlier, is for loss. The one for chronic illness, very similar, but again, there's 2 additional stages. So you've got denial, bargaining, anger, anxiety, depression, loss of self and confusion, re-evaluation of life, roles, and goals, and then acceptance. I agree with these stages more as someone who goes in and out through grief with chronic illness because number 5 and 6, loss of self and reevaluation of life and goals. Dealing with illness, you are sick a lot. You can lose yourself and then constantly reevaluating your life. We just, in the end, need to remember that we're not our illness. My name is Sarah Rae. It is not Crohn's disease. I lastly want to add that you can still go through grief even after hitting acceptance. I've accepted my life as a sick life. You know, I'm just a girl living the sick life. But sometimes I still feel anger, anxiety, loss of self, and a relook at my life and goals. And that's just what happens when you deal with chronic illness. It's going to happen. Managing stress, communication, and monitoring your life and health. are very important when it comes to chronic illness and handling your life around grief. So managing stress, living in the present moment is very important because when you're living in the future, you're feeling anxiety. And when you're living in the past, you're depressed. Also, stress is a big trigger for a lot of chronic illnesses. So, finding a way to distract yourself, listening to music, finding a hobby that you're going to get really into, journaling, going for a walk, exercising is a great way to ease tension. Communication, having your support group. I have a video about support groups. Having somebody you can go to talk to, that will listen to you, that won't be aggressive towards, is so important. And monitoring what you are going through, because you'll find a pattern and see when things are acting up. You'll be able to know when to allow yourself to say, okay, I'm going to take it slow. And maybe call the doctor, tell him this is going on. Or maybe you just need a rest. And then other times you'll be able to see you can be more active. It'll allow you to know what you are dealing with if you're monitoring your health and what is going on. Finding ways to cope is very important. I hope this video helped anybody out there who is experiencing some very heavy emotions with your chronic illness and you didn't understand maybe this helped. Let me know. Did you go through grief with chronic illness, or are you going through grief? What is your chronic illness? If you have a story you don't want to share with down below, I do have an email address. You can email me anytime. It's in the description box down below. Again, check in the description box down below. I have videos linked there that you may want to check out. The rest of the week, Saturday you've got some Skid Row, and Sunday is Sweet Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and well, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.